Join Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio, the host of Only the Best for You. Be a change maker and unlock the secret to your best life.
Hello, everyone. My name is Carol Davies. Welcome to my weekly podcast called Only the Best for You here on Global Voice Radio. Each week, I bring you topics about being a change maker in the world and in your own life. Starting change is as easy as changing something in yourself that you really want to change. To become a better person, to learn a new skill, to help others. The list is endless. Gandhi said it best, be the change you wish to see in the world. This week we have episode 46, dedicated to how we can break free of negative emotions that hold us back in personal and work life, or they might cause physical or emotional health problems such as stress, depression, low self-esteem, and related aspects. So how do we identify negative emotions? Negative emotions can be described as any feeling which causes you to be miserable and sad. These emotions may make you dislike yourself and others and take away your equilibrium. The emotions that can become negative are hate, anger, jealousy, and sadness. Yet, in the right context, these feelings are completely natural. Negative emotions can dampen our enthusiasm for life, depending on how long we let them affect us and the way we choose to express them. Bottling up our emotions can lead to allergies, nausea, constipation, headaches, sleep disorders, and disease, as well as emotional distress. The way your body reacts to emotions will help you to identify them. Once you've pinpointed the negative emotion, you can try to control it. So why do we hang on to anger and pain? Our negative experiences create patterns we follow. The brain maps out the pattern according to our response to the experience. For example, if you were told to go to bed as punishment in your childhood, you're likely to associate going to bed with fear and sadness. We have frequently signs of harboring negative emotions, and this is something which can be quite complex, but we can feel it in ourselves if we feel such emotions on a regular basis, such as pessimism, feeling like we want revenge, or addictive behavior, such things as, drinking too much, smoking too much, taking drugs, to deaden those emotions we don't want to feel. So if you are feeling these kind of emotions, the first thing to do is decide that you want to go towards happiness and find ways to deal with them. Now, I have one way which perhaps isn't that usual, but I thought would be interesting to share with you first. I'm very much interested in alternative natural healing therapies, and I use a lot of what they call crystals or semi-precious stones in dealing with physical or emotional problems that I have, or with clients that I see. So healing stones or crystals harness the life-giving elements of the earth and the universe. Harnessing the energy of the sun, the moon, and the oceans, semi-precious stones connect us to the earth as soon as we come into contact with them. Many people wonder if crystals have healing powers, and while there are many anecdotes describing curative effects of healing stones, it really depends on your own experience. It takes a conscious effort to open your heart and mind to the power of crystal healing. But once you begin, the journey is studded with beautiful, mysterious, and unique crystals that will rock your world. If you are open to alternative healing ideas, here are some of my recommendations for stones or crystals for releasing or letting go of negative thoughts and energies. And keep in mind, this is a totally natural technique, and it does nothing to you. Don't ingest anything, you don't smell anything, you just hold them. So here's a simple crystal healing technique that you can use to help you pull you out of vicious emotional down cycles and change your energy towards more positive. Firstly, lie down or lean back in a chair. Place a piece of smoky quartz at the soles of both feet. This will help ground and clear the energy out of your system. Sit with them at your feet for a few minutes and just relax and breathe in and out, in and out. This will help you also to absorb the good energies coming in and get everything flowing nicely in your body. Or you could alternatively hold a crystal called selenite in your receptive hand. That's your more dominant hand for purification and serenity. Or black tourmaline in your other hand for purification and neutralization of lower frequencies. If you're lying down, you can place a piece of amethyst on your forehead. This is often known as the third eye chakra. This will start to shift the energy of your thoughts and ward off negativity. Make an effort to focus on something positive to support that shift. And finally, just breathe. Sit quietly, breathe in and out, slowly. You should feel an overall energy shift and shift in your thinking in about 5 to 10 minutes. Now, I'd like to look at an area where negative emotions can really wreak havoc in both personal and work life, and this is stress. According to research, the percentage of Americans who are stressed at work is quite high, and it's only getting higher. According to the CDC's National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, studies have found that the number of Americans who are extremely stressed at work range between 29 to 40%. Unfortunately, work stress has significant health consequences that range from relatively benign, more colds and flu, to the more serious, like heart disease and the sad fact of putting on weight. Because stress at work is so common, finding a low stress job may be difficult or impossible for many people. A more realistic choice would be to simply adopt more effective strategies to reduce negativity and stress at work. And here are some techniques you might like to try. 1, start your day off right. After scrambling to get the family organized, the children fed and off to school, dodging traffic and combating all that road traffic, and maybe just gulping down a cup of coffee instead of eating something healthy, many people come into work already stressed and more reactive to stress at work. In fact, you may be surprised by how much more reactive to stress you are when you have a stressful morning. If you start off the day with good nutrition, proper planning, and a positive attitude, you may find the stress of the workplace rolling off your back more easily. Now, be clear on requirements in your job. A factor that contributes to job burnout frequently is unclear requirements. This can cause huge negativity in your life. If you don't know exactly what's expected of you, or if the requirements keep changing with little notice, you may find yourself much more stressed than necessary. If you find yourself falling into the trap of never knowing if what you're doing is enough, it may help to have a talk with your boss or supervisor and go over expectations and strategies for meeting them. This can release stress for both of you. Another good tip is try to stay away from conflict. Because interpersonal conflict takes a toll on your physical and emotional health, and because conflict among coworkers is so difficult to escape, it's a good idea to avoid conflict at work as much as possible. That means don't gossip, don't share too many of your personal opinions about religion and politics, and try to steer clear of colorful office humor. Try to avoid those people at work who don't work well with others. If conflict finds you anyways, learn how to deal with it appropriately. Another way to deal with your negative emotions is stay organized. Disorganization can cause a lot of stress both in your physical environment and also internally when you look around at, say, a cluttered environment and you can't find things or it just doesn't look good. So even if you're a naturally disorganized person, planning ahead to stay organized can greatly decrease stress at work. Being organized with your time means less rushing in the morning and to avoid being late and rushing to get out at the end of the day. Keeping yourself organized also means avoiding the negative effects of clutter, and it'll help you be more efficient with your work. Another surprising stressor at work is physical discomfort. So be comfortable. You may not notice the stress you experience when you're in an uncomfortable chair for a few minutes, but if you practically live in that chair when you're at work, you can have a sore back and be more reactive to stress because of it. Even small things like office noise can be distracting and cause low-grade frustration. Do what you can to ensure that you're working from a quiet, comfortable, and soothing workspace. Another important thing is forget about multitasking. Multitasking was once heralded as a fantastic way to maximize one's time and get more done in a day. Then people started realizing that when they had a phone in their ear and were making calculations at the same time and trying to type on the computer, their speed and accuracy, not to mention sanity, suffered. There is a certain kind of frazzled feeling that comes from splitting one's focus that doesn't work well for most people. Rather than multitasking, try a new strategy known as chunking. Chunking involves taking small parts of a task or a goal and working on that to finish it, and then on to the next step. A great big thing that you need to accomplish has to be broken down into smaller, more manageable steps. Now, another thing that you can do is try to keep perfectionism in check. Being a high achiever can help you feel good about yourself and excel at work. But being a perfectionist, on the other hand, can drive you and the people around you a little bit crazy. Especially in busy, fast-paced jobs, you may not be able to do everything perfectly, but striving to do just your best and then congratulating yourself on the effort is a good strategy. Your results will actually be better, and you'll be much less stressed at work. That doesn't mean that you should just let things go and turn in a mediocre job, but do as much as you can, and then when you've reached sort of the end of that time frame, be satisfied with that, see where you're going, and then you can assess whether you need to do a little bit more or perhaps reorient the task or goal. So, as we've been talking, you'll see that there's a number of ways that you can cope with stress. And to make that more general, there's a number of coping strategies too that you can use to deal with negative emotions, stress being one of them. So here's some of these coping strategies you might like to try. Don't pull things out of proportion by going over them time and again in your mind. Try to be reasonable. Accept that bad feelings are occasionally unavoidable, and think of ways to make yourself feel better. Relax. Use pleasant activities like reading, walking, or talking to a friend. Learn. Notice how grief, loss, and anger make you feel, and which events trigger those feelings so you can prepare in advance. Exercise. Aerobic activity lowers your level of stress chemicals and allows you to cope better with negative emotions. Also, let go of the past. Constantly going over negative events robs you of the present and makes you feel bad. And we really don't need to do that to ourselves. And there is another way of looking at negative emotions too. It's often said that there is no such thing as a negative emotion. Every emotion serves an important function, even anger, fear, and sadness. Peace is not denying your emotions. It's feeling them, learning from them, and then letting them move through you. We confuse a negative or destructive expression of a feeling with the feeling itself. Yes, unhealthy expressions can be harmful. But if we banish some feelings and don't allow them to move through us, we get stuck in places that we belonged to a long time ago. These are no longer our reality, but we go on living as if they are. And one extremely effective technique that we'll be exploring in a future podcast is tapping or emotional freedom technique. That's essentially using tapping on various parts of your body to stimulate the release of trapped emotions and energy. And quite soon I'm going to be having a podcast just on this, and you may find that very helpful to tune into. Many times, though, we don't even know what it is that we're feeling. So how are we supposed to move things through that we can't even name? Like maybe we don't know what the emotion is or the feeling. I consider myself a sensitive person, and I have a complicated relationship with my feelings. They are the sensors I extend out into the world to pull it in. They are the guides that help me decide what works or doesn't work for me. But there are also times when my feelings rise with such force that I am left gasping for breath. Then I am tempted by the thought that feeling not so much would have made things easier. Sometimes I don't like feeling things, but then I start feeling numb, and that's not good either. There's looking back in things in the past, things I didn't deal with, and then they come rising up years later. have caused pain and sadness and complications. And now I like to try to deal with things as they come up, as I hope you will. Excuse me. Sometimes we're never taught how to relate to our emotions. And we have to know that our feelings naturally ebb and flow through the day. They direct our attention to what is happening in our lives, and they urge us to take action. However, venting and repressing feelings are not the only choices we have. But what action should we take? Isn't that the trickiest part of dealing with feelings, especially negative emotions? When I was in a full-time job, I never used to allow myself to feel anger in my work situation. Things weren't ideal, but I sort of, slogged along, went in, showed up, but it wasn't good because I wasn't sure what I could do with him. I didn't have anyone to talk about these things with. My supervisor was not receptive, and most of my work colleagues were so stressed out they didn't want to talk about it either. So I felt like I had to stuff it in. Well, this was not a good idea because at one point I got very, very ill with some health problems caused by stress and had to take time off work. Now, that was not a good way to deal with what was going on. So I learned from that. And I hope with some of the things I'm talking about with you today that it will give you some ideas that emotions are good. Negative emotions are good too. Yes, we like to run away from things that cause us pain and cause us to feel off balance, but it's far better to be courageous and deal with it, because then you're going forward instead of staying stuck and suffering. So one of the ways I'm learning to work with my feelings is to first consciously experience the feeling itself. And I find that one way, if I'm feeling angry now, is I'll go somewhere and I will hit a cushion or just sort of think thoughts that are not great, but I can just do it when it's in private. Just get rid of those negative emotions. But obviously, sometimes things, for me, dealing with it in a physical way helps. That may be different for you. And if you're on the job, it's probably not too easy to do something like that. People will think, oh dear, she's having a bad day. So you have to look at it in a personal way, how you experience emotions, how you want to deal with them, and structure your life accordingly. It's so very important, a part of self-care, to deal with emotions, because they help you to be calm and grounded and stabilized in your life. If you're off balance, life is not as good. So I hope that you have found some great takeaways from what I've talked about today. And if you want any further information on some of the techniques or want to talk about more ideas with me, contact me through my website, www.thepassionmotivator.com, or by email at coachcaroldavies@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Remember, you can change your life at any time and become the success you want to be. I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Bye now.
Tune in every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern for Only the Best for You with Carol Davies on Global Voice Radio.